So if you look at the rates comparatively, I just threw this up here for you. It's on everybody's mind. How do we fare? We talk about the increases that we've done the last 2 years. In 2011, we did the big increase, and that was our base rate. We took it from $500 and I think it was 60 some odd dollars, and moved it to $800 for a base rate on an advanced life support paramedic charge. We moved our base mileage rate, which was absolutely phenomenally low at 8 something a mile. We moved that up. In 2011, we did another change to the billing structure. This was more online with medications and supplies, billable supplies. So on private insurance claims, we can bill out oxygen, we can bill out IVs, we can bill out cardiac meds and things of that nature. Medicare, not so much. Medicare is ALS, yes. BLS, yes. That's about it. And then our mileage went to $22 a mile. So we are far less rate structure-wise in Las Vegas and Utah. And we're pretty proud of that. We're doing okay with it. And like I said, our revenue stream is pretty much on target. We're pretty much on track where we need to be. So that's it. Any questions?
I have a couple.
Where was I on time?
You're good. You're perfect.
All right. We're shooting for 5.
Based on 2012, do we have a 2012 figure on total revenue?
Yes.
That's collected revenue, not...
Right. So 2012, we billed out $1,597,507.49. Our total deposits were $689,436.
And how many transports, trips, whatever did we do?
Okay, in 2012, we did 2,066 EMS calls. Out of those calls, interfacility transports, is that what you're alluding to?
Just wherever we're going to charge an ambulance fee to, how many of those trips?
Okay, well, I don't have that number specifically. I'd have to break that down into actually what was transported versus what was billed out as a against medical advice call, where people call the ambulance, get treated, but don't go to the hospital, and people that just flat out leave the scene before we get there. So that kind of jives with those numbers. The solid numbers I can give you are 2,066 EMS calls for the year of 2012. Out of those 2,066, 496 of those calls were interfacility transport. Interfacility transporting is roughly 70% plus of that revenue stream. That's where the money's coming from.
Okay, so approximately, you said 496?
496, right? It comes out to 24.9%, 25%.
Okay.
Interfacility transporting, which then flip-flops and becomes 70% of our revenue stream.
Okay, so what's the cost per trip? How much what's our cost on each trip?
Our ALS base rate is $800. And then we charge 22.
No, I'm talking about what our cost is, not what we're charging the customer. How much it's costing the city to run a trip?
I don't have that figured out right now. I don't have that number in my head. I know Chief Italy has worked that out, and I apologize, I don't have that.
That's okay. If you can just have that for us, I'd really like to see that as we go down the path to make sure we know what we're up against.
Right. And he did make that statement, I believe last week during budgets, that we can effectively run an interfacility transport to Las Vegas, 2 paramedics, and still come out on the profitable side of it with that rate.
Really like to see that number.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, and we'll have that for you.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Councilman Gustavson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. That was a good question that I think that Mayor Word just asked, but I'd like to ask the other half of that question, was how much is it costing us when we do one of these transports? I want to ask it in a different way. How much difference would it cost us if we didn't do any transports? Because we're going to have essentially the same number of EMTs because they're going to be firefighters as well, so.
Well, okay, that's a good question. Interfacility transporting, so you're alluding to privatization and interfacility transporting? Is that kind of the gist of the question?
Yeah,
There's still going to be a need to have paramedics and EMTs on the fire department. We're still going to have to provide that backup service for interfacility transporting and also for 911 service.
Would still be the first responder otherwise.
Absolutely.
So we're still going to make every one of those calls. We're just not going to get paid for them because we'll be the first responder.
Exactly. The
And
revenue
then,
stream.
and then another contract ambulance service would be collecting for that 700,000 we're looking for this year. They'd be collecting that.
Correct.
So maybe we end up with one or so less fire people, and economically, I don't see that there's any savings for us. And in terms of the committee, or in terms of the community and their feelings about our current service, which they're very, very happy with, it seems to me that it would be a big negative if we thought in any other direction than where we already are. Not that we can't improve the economics of where we already are, but the idea of having your own people who care about the community and have top-notch equipment because we're getting grants, they're not going to get those grants because they're a for-profit, so they're paying for it. So they're driving ambulances with 2 million miles on them and the paint's all falling off, and they don't have a choice because they're not making enough money to make any difference. But where the rubber meets the road is the fact that because we can get those grants, we can have a lot better service with a lot better equipment and a lot happier electorate out there because of all those things. Just my thoughts.
Correct, I agree 100%, absolutely.
Councilman Woodhull.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe when we spoke with Chief Higley last week that we compared some costs with privatization versus the city maintaining the service that we provide. Where do the costs from the private utilities come in compared to our costs? I mean, is there a balance that, I mean, a typical run cost is $800 an hour, I believe you said, and then 22 cents a mile. That's basically for the city conducted services. Mm-hmm. Do those charges increase or decrease dramatically with a private service? They increase.
We're the lowest in the area. We're the lowest in the area. We're the lowest in the state. I can assure you, we're all throughout Utah. We're especially the lowest.
Well, it's obvious the numbers we saw from St. George and Las Vegas and here. But are there, for instance, are there any privatization units in Las Vegas and or St. George?
Yes.
And what do those numbers come in at? Do you have any idea what their books look like or where their numbers are?
What their revenue streams are and stuff
yes.
like that? No. I just know their base rates. I know what they're charging, and that's the best I can give you.
Well, no, I didn't expect you to have exact numbers.
Yeah.
I still think that due to the fact that those numbers are still relatively low for our city, we should probably look at another form of privatization or something. I'm not saying we have to do it, but I think we should delve into it deeper and see where those numbers actually compute.
Right. I should. I can tell you that Irish Medical, our billing company, does a lot of billing for a lot of the Utah services, and we can get some more data on what other services are pulling in.
Well, it certainly would be interesting to see
Sure.
where those numbers lie.
Sure.
Thank you.